David Wilcock, Secret Space Program revealed, 2 new radio shows, transcript. June 14, 2015.
Over 3 hours of stunning new information about the secret space program and the greater questions of spontaneous human evolution that are being raised for those in the know. Everything is reaching a climax, both on and off planet. The recent announcement of the hacking of all records for all U.S. federal employees, even the most classified, is only the latest major signpost of a coming, epic change. The future is more wonderful than we can imagine. As one of many examples, California's water crisis should be solvable within a matter of a few months once we get disclosure. In fact, water could quickly become California's most profitable export, sending it to parched regions all throughout Middle America and beyond. Multiple technologies already exist that can easily desalinate ocean water. California is right next to an ocean. There is water everywhere. What is the problem? Water everywhere, and not a drop to drink may have been true in the pirate era, but we do have the means to alleviate those problems today. One of the technologies we are directly aware of will desalinate ocean water, generate free energy and produce any element in the periodic table as a byproduct. This technology already has the quiet support of one of the most prestigious universities in the country. I have heard about it from more than one independent source. On a personal level, knowing these technologies exist and that they have not been released yet is extremely frustrating. For now, I continue to be almost ridiculously over-conservative with my water usage. Days without showering and the yellow toilet. Good thing I live alone. It is interesting to simultaneously reflect on the fact that the darkest hour is before the dawn, and we are far closer to it than most people could ever imagine. The after-disclosure world will change everything. We are on the verge of an epic series of disclosures that will make all other information, books, videos and media in the UFO field seem hopelessly outdated. Everyone will be suddenly flooded with a learning curve that will simultaneously be more amazing and more horrifying than they had ever imagined. Never again will we look at the records from our current civilization the same way. In the after-disclosure, or AD world, everything will be very different. Yes, we are going to need to learn some pretty upsetting things to get through this transition. However, the positives far outweigh the emotional shock that the negatives will temporarily put us all through, as a planet and a hybridized species. There are at least 40 different humanoid extraterrestrial groups that have tinkered around with our DNA, for many thousands of years. We have a much broader spectrum of emotions than most other human species out there. It is both our single greatest weakness and our most powerful strength, once we learn how to harness its power for the positive. Like being surrounded by a drowning ocean of useless seawater, once we learn the command we have over reality, our thirst for the beyond will be slaked. Okay, so what are the negatives they are so afraid of us finding out about? Bottom line, there are good guys and bad guys in the universe. Both are allowed to present their messages to us. The future we experience is the result of the choices we make. Our natural destiny is to go through moments of quantum change, where the ground state of reality itself, and all the assumptions that go along with it, is fundamentally and subtly altered. We are not protected from negativity any more than our collective free will decides. When we act in selfish, manipulative, controlling and violent ways, that in turn allows elite controllers to do the same things to us on a larger scale. Humanity as a collective has created these problems. Some of them have built up from thousands of years of karmic patterns. Multi-incarnational karmic alleviation. As I explained in the Synchronicity Key, the Edgar case readings detailed many hundreds of cases where people were suffering debilitating karma from acts they had performed back in ancient Rome. Examples were given including people laughing at a little girl as she got her insides ripped out by a lion in the Colosseum. Despite this being a socially acceptable pastime for the era, any sufficiently negative emotion towards another who is in pain and agony will generate karma. The weirdest and most significant realization to come out of the Synchronicity Key is the fact that history keeps looping around and around, very precisely, like the movie Groundhog Day. The precision with which this happens is utterly astonishing. In some cases, The repetition can be timed almost down to the day in cycles lasting 2,160 years. In the interview transcript you are about to read, I told Jimmy Church I do not consider myself to be a smart person. That being said, figuring out how to properly investigate and write about these cycles of history, making them understandable, is probably my headiest achievement yet. We keep on reincarnating. The benevolent ETs I so often talk about in Ancient Aliens on History Channel, I am a regular, featured in over 35 episodes, seeded the cycle numbers in multiple cultures around the world. This area of study was so arcane that in order to rescue it for our time, it required incredible effort, pulling together tiny threads of data I encountered over 20 years of time. It also is not conducive to a show like Ancient Aliens, due to its complexity, and thus no episodes have been made about this phenomenon at this time. Now we have a solid body of evidence that history is programmed by a greater cosmic intelligence to guide us through an intelligently defined script for spiritual enlightenment. In order to be a true Christian, it is necessary to understand and accept the reality of reincarnation. According to the direct inheritors of the original teachings, this was the greatest secret of Christ. The term burn in hell, Gehenna, really means to alleviate, burn off, karma. The word we now call eternity, aeon, simply means a cycle of time. The eternal hell we were warned about is not some cosmic purgatory we experience after a death. It is happening now, and the flames are hotter than ever. The Prime Directive makes it tough. The ETs, positive or negative, are simply not allowed to make a big showing. They cannot spontaneously decide to drop in and make an appearance on The Tonight Show. The Prime Directive is not just a theme you hear about on Star Trek. It is an absolute law in the universe that all beings, positive and negative, must follow. However, certain individuals can indeed receive contact directly. This is a fundamental part of how we learn the truth, both in the past and present. Corey Goode came forward and began sharing massive amounts of intel with me on the Secret Space Program, SSP, last October, 2014. I wrote everything down as he was telling me. He independently verified hundreds of things I had heard from other insiders. It was only after he decided to officially drop his pseudonym, Goode at SG, and come forward that he began receiving direct ET contact in the present. It has been truly surreal to hear the new updates from him, as he has been pulled into well over a dozen different off-planet meetings since that time. I understand most people probably think this is BS. A fundamental part of the Prime Directive is truth without proof. The higher-level beings cannot simply reveal themselves to us. There must be a calling, where a sufficient number of people request their help, before intervention can occur. We are truly blessed to have ongoing divine intervention taking place. This is the only thing that has stopped the Cabal from destroying most of our lives. The zombie program. The Cabal has been very innovative in coming up with a multitude of different ways to try to kill the majority of people on Earth. One of the more upsetting and shocking ones I learned about, from 3 different credible insiders, is actually called the zombie program. Using advanced cloning techniques, 150 million humans were manufactured in the U.S., all held in underground bases west of the Rockies, and another 100 million in Europe. They would look more or less like ordinary people, not what you see in the movies. The men might typically be wearing a plaid shirt and blue jeans. However, they are given a strange infectious virus that can make them bleed out of every orifice, including their fingernails. They are programmed to have an insatiable craving to attack and eat other humans who do not have the infection. When normal people come in contact with the pathogens in their blood, they will die a horrible death within 24 hours. Simply being scratched by the fingernails from one of these beings would be enough to cause death. Aerosol shuts it down once the job is done. The Cabal also manufactured an aerosol that could be sprayed over an area where these zombies were released. It would cause their death but leave ordinary folks alone. Otherwise, the only way to effectively kill the zombies would be to separate the brain stem from the neck, such as through beheading. The Cabal's plan was to release this plague, bring about the deaths of millions to achieve their depopulation goals, and then shut off the plague with the aerosol. At that point, They had intended for us to have descended into mass starvation, rioting, anarchy and chaos, leading to martial law and internment camps, which people would flock to in fear of zombies. The technology was in place to generate this zombie apocalypse all the way back in the 1960s. The Night of the Living Dead was the first major movie to try to use social engineering to get this apocalypse to be authorized by the benevolent ETs. If enough of us saw these movies and really believed that zombies would attack us on a mass level, then thanks to the Prime Directive, the benevolent ETs would be forced to let it happen. The entire program had to be scrapped. The benevolent ETs have blocked the zombie program so effectively that it has never been allowed to occur. Simply put, not enough people genuinely believe that zombies are real for this to ever be allowed to happen. The cabal is very well aware of this. They continue to crank out a tremendous amount of zombie apocalypse films and TV shows, hoping to get another chance. Other life forms that do not look anywhere near as similar to us have also been engineered with the zombie virus. The preferred design that would currently be used, if authorized, are little beings that look like greys, and are only about 2 feet tall. The hope was that they could be sneaky, run around quickly, evade capture and scratch people on the legs to cause death. In this sense, the cabal felt that if enough people believed in negative grey ETs, the hope was that authorization could then be granted. Again, this will never be allowed to occur. Every attempt to create mass depopulation, both conventional and unconventional, has been thwarted. I didn't know what would happen. What you just read is an example of intel I had been aware of for some time, have held onto, and said I did not ever want to release it because it was upsetting and fear-porn. However, we are now being asked by the Alliance to release this information in advance of a much greater data dump that will come our way with disclosure. It is too late for the cabal to stop disclosure. It is definitely going to happen. I have been waylaid by a very busy schedule, as we will discuss, but I am definitely continuing the fight to write articles and produce videos about all of this. I discussed the zombie program in my last talk at the recent Contact in the Desert conference, having no idea how a live audience, including one 8-year-old child, would respond. Given that the kid was in the audience, certain details were definitely not shared that I might have done otherwise. Quite to my surprise, everyone seemed perfectly okay with it. They were very grateful to finally hear the truth, and not have me censor things I thought were too intense for us to hear. Getting the word out through radio shows. As part of this initiative to disclose as much as you can, as fast as you can, I did 2 different radio shows to promote the then upcoming conference. Since the conference, I had an Ancient Aliens taping that required a great deal of study, as always. Since the taping, I have been recovering. So to review, I had the New Living Expo event, hardly any downtime, then a major game taping of 8 episodes, followed days later by the Contact event, followed days later by Ancient Aliens, and then a big recovery period. At the same time, Negative Greeting, as defined by the Law of One series, has been taking shot after shot after shot at me. It is difficult to keep going amidst all of this. One small but significant part of the Negative Greeting is that we are getting very blatant death threats from the cabal, like never before. This has been coupled with a very intense increase in the amount of hatred written about me by paid cabal bloggers on the internet. Again, I no longer care about the online hate. Most of the trouble has been in dealing with personal issues and the cleansing and healing of painful life experiences and memories. Yes, it all sounds crazy. However, with the full scope of ET technology available to the cabal, making programmable clones is not at all difficult. In fact, a similar cloning program began making most of the Greys that were actually doing abductions, beginning in the 1960s. Some abductions are genuinely ET related. People are being brought into slavery off-planet in large numbers. That is another unpleasant truth we will soon be confronted with. The movie Guardians of the Galaxy was intended to help soften the blow. Supposedly there is more than enough technology and capability in place to recover all surviving captives in the post-disclosure world. The negative programs are being shut down. Thankfully these highly negative programs are quickly being shut down. The negative elite have already lost. Now they're just in the final limbo period before it becomes public. Rather than worrying too much about trying to prove all of this data, we have been instructed to simply release as much of the truth as we can. This will help buffer the emotional shock and gravity of people hearing so much of this upsetting material all at once. I have held on to the knowledge of the zombie program for at least 2 years now, but no more. That is just one of a variety of weird things there are to know. On to the radio shows. So with all that said, I am quite pleased with both of the radio shows I did. The first one was transcribed and submitted by an anonymous individual, beginning a half hour after I started speaking, and was discussing my music work. As soon as we went deep, and got into the cosmic stuff, the transcript started. The second show was that same Thursday with Richard Garner, entitled What in the World?, which airs on Sirius XM with a station out of Canada entitled Canada Talks. This appearance was very highly bizarre for me. 15 minutes before airtime, I planned out a whole routine around a particular song, Wild World by Cat Stevens. I figured that if I mentioned the song, they would later play it on the show. It was utterly stupefying, and extremely shocking, when that same song started playing as I was live on the air. By the time Richard got me speaking, I had composed myself, but only partly. Every hair on my arms and the back of my neck was standing up,